Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ghost Talk Radio. We have a fantastic and interesting show planned for you tonight. So, I invite everyone to log into our interactive chat room at www.wbhm-db.com. Tonight, Kristen Boyd is here with me, and we will be discussing omens of death and other superstitions. Hello and welcome, Kristen.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here once again.
Oh, yes, and I tell you what, this is such an interesting topic this evening. Let's just dig right in. To start off, I'll tell you all, an omen is a phenomenon that is believed to predict the future and often indicating an advent of carnage, so to say. In a death omen, the prediction of the future event will be, of course, you guessed it, death. Maybe not for the person the prediction came to, but it can also be for someone they know, like their family or friends. And there are many different legends, lores, and mythologies around the world about these death omens, and even different superstitions surrounding death itself. We're going to touch base on a few of these this evening.
Now, while there are a lot of legends that surrounds death,
oh yes,
we will only be touching base on a few of them and their meanings.
Mm-hmm.
So to start off, we're going to discuss the bat. Now, it can symbolize death and rebirth. Sometimes they are known as the guardian of the night. They are largely misunderstood, and therefore many of its symbolic meanings are inappropriately fear-based.
Yes, everybody seems to be scared of them.
Yes, come across quite a few of those.
Oh, yes.
But legend has it, if a bat flies into your home and then gets away, it is said that there will be a death within the family.
Oh.
However, in the Far East, particularly China, the bat represents good fortune and longevity.
Interesting.
The number of bats, they also have a meaning.
Yeah.
So 2 bats are greater luck, and 5 represents the blessings of long life, wealth, honor, health, and a natural death.
So we want to see a whole flock of them.
A whole bunch.
Yes.
So, it really depends on where you live and your culture, if the bat is actually representing a death omen.
Uh-huh.
Now, another legend is, if you see a swarm of bees on a tree that is rotting, the family that owns that property the tree is on will have a death occur within 1 year.
Wow.
Now, however, if the bees are swarming the house itself, the entire family is considered to be doomed. Most generally, however, in many cultures, bees are associated with good fortune.
Yeah, and I've heard that too. And I do want to make mention, everyone, I know you could probably hear the motorcycle driving by. I want to let you know that we are broadcasting live from Ohio's most haunted jail, the old Paulding County Jail here in Paulding, Ohio. And we do get a little traffic now and again, as well as some of our resident ghosts have, on occasion, made appearances during our show.
Been a little noisy.
Yes. Now, moving right along on these death omens, another one that comes to mind is the black cat. That is a huge urban legend, It's said if one witnesses a black cat meowing, it is a supposed sign of death. I don't know, but I feed a bunch of them outside, so I don't know.
I've had a black cat for many years, and I'm still alive.
Well, I'm still alive, too, but it's the people around us that must be dying.
Must be.
Now, if one sits on the bed of a person that is ill, it's said that that person will soon die. Now, the list continues on and on for black cats, but those are a few of the main highlights surrounding them. Like I said, I've owned black cats myself. We feed some strays outside. So, for me, I don't know unless it counts for neighbors and all that. Maybe. Now, there's the owls. Now, the owls themselves, they have been considered an omen of death throughout Europe, linking them to death, destruction, and ruin. According to Apache and Seminole tribes, in some tribal legends, owls are associated with spirits of the dead. Sometimes owls are said to carry messages from beyond the grave or deliver supernatural warnings to people who have broken tribal taboos. The Aztecs and Maya, along with other natives of the Mesoamerica, they considered the owl a symbol of death and destruction, while the Pawnee tribes, they viewed the owls as the symbol of protection from any danger within their realms. Now we go to the Pueblo people associated with owls. The god of death and spirit of fertility for the Pueblo people. Now, owl spirit animals are symbolic of death in many traditions, in many cases. However, if the owl is associated with death, it can also be viewed as a symbolic death, meaning a transition in life, excuse me, important changes that are taking place or changes that are about to happen. So the owl doesn't mean exactly just death.
Right. Well, another bird, the crow, is known as an omen of death because it is supposed to be the harbinger that guides souls from the realm of the living into the afterlife.
And you always hear things associated with crows, too.
Lots of stories.
Yes.
Now, the crow is said to have powerful knowledge of the changes of life and death and the changes in the cycles of life.
Uh-huh.
So, when a crow appears, it can be a warning or a spiritual blessing, depending on how you look at it.
Huh.
The crow is also an omen of change, because they represent ancient magical laws and wisdom. When the crow calls to us, we have an instant flash of our authentic self. The crow sees our soul self. It is also said that the crow can also be appearing for you to begin to use your second sight, the gift of clairvoyance.
Nice.
And this is a gift that allows you to see beyond what we're humanly capable of, and a gift that can allow us to see into the spirit realm.
You know, and there are several superstitions surrounding the crow. For an example, it is said that when death is near, a crow will come to a window or near a home repeatedly for several days before the passing takes place. Now, after someone has passed, a crow will visit the home again in the same way. This is a symbol of a special message from the one who just passed, and it's important to pay attention to when and where the crow appears, and is a telling sign of the message being sent. Another instance is, it is said seeing a crow of 2 is fine, but if you witness 5 crows at once, it is a sure sign of sickness and disease. Seeing 6 crows at once absolutely signifies death. So we don't want to see a pack of those.
It's a good thing I think I've only seen like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So there's this huge moth. It's called the black witch moth, and it is considered an omen of death in Mexican and Caribbean folklore.
Interesting.
In many cultures, one of these moths flying into the house is considered to be bad luck. In Mexico, when there is sickness in a house and this moth enters, it is believed the sick person will die through a variation of this theme within the lower Rio Grande Valley, Texas, is that death only occurs if the moth flies in and visits all 4 corners of one's house.
Oh, wow.
Now, in Mesoamerica, from the pre-Hispanic era until the present time, moths have been associated with death and the number 4. In some parts of Mexico, people joke that if one flies over someone's head, the person will lose their hair.
Oh, my.
I don't ever want that to
No.
Now in Jamaica, under the name Doobie Bat, the moth is seen as an embodiment of lost soul or a lost soul not at rest. In Hawaii, the black witch moth mythology, though associated with death, has a happier note in that if a loved one has just died, the moth is an embodiment of the person's soul returning to say goodbye.
Oh, so that's kind of nice. That's yes. Now,
much better than certain death when you see it.
Absolutely. Like you were talking about the moth. Well, there's this black butterfly, and it's generally considered a symbol of misfortune and an omen of death in many cultures as well. Now, it is a sign of positive change, like the death indicated by the black butterfly can also be interpreted as a death of something rather than a person, such as the end of a relationship, job, or even an idea or project. In many parts of the world, especially Central America, Philippines, and China, the black butterflies are considered as a symbol of death. Now, black butterflies, and the moths too, as we just talked about, seen indoors is often considered a warning that the death of someone in the house will soon occur. Or it can indicate that there has been a recent death or illness of someone in the house. Now, in Irish and Celtic legends, they say that black butterflies are also the souls of deceased people who are unable or unwilling to move on to the afterlife. They may return to the place they once lived or somewhere that they found that they loved a lot, so they come back and visit in the afterlife. Now, some cultures associate the black butterfly with witches.
If you interesting.
Yes. An odd old legend says that a black butterfly flying around the home is a witch that has transformed themselves into the black butterfly in order to steal food. Food, believe it.
That's interesting.
In Aztec mythology, the warrior goddess camouflages herself as a black butterfly to devour souls during a solar eclipse. So just think about that during the next solar eclipse, which is, by the way, folks, July 2nd, 2019.
Well, some of you may have heard of the hellhound. It is said that a black dog is a spectral or demonic entity found primarily in the folklore of the British Isles.
Yes.
The black dog is essentially a nocturnal apparition. Some of them are considered shapeshifters and are often said to be associated with the devil or described as a ghost hellhound. Its appearance was regarded as an omen of death, bringing death or disaster to all who see it. Now, it is generally supposed to be larger than a normal dog and often has large glowing eyes, and I've heard red and green. And they also have shaggy fur and it's considered to be black as the night. It is sometimes associated with electrical storms and also with crossroads, places of execution, deaths, murders, and ancient pathways.
Oh.
Now, it's said he is able to breathe hellfire in any of those forms, burning his victims' souls. That the black dog is able to deliver a powerful bite and inflict scorching gashes with his black claws. Those who are unfortunate enough to encounter the spirit are fated to die or meet with great misfortune within a year's time.
Oh my.
Not something I want to.
No, you don't want one of them to bite you, that's for sure.
Now, looking into the black dog's fiery eyes means certain death within a year, and attacking it will bring about fatal consequences.
Uh-oh.
The spirit is able to induce feelings of overwhelming terror in a victim through his malicious glare alone, oftentimes causing total body paralysis, although this effect is only temporary. Now, if attacked, the black dog is able to inflict savage, excruciatingly painful wounds, which are slow to heal, if they even heal at all.
Oh my.
Now, he seems to be able to predict the deaths of people, often appearing before someone dies and howling when someone is knocking on death's door. So, for all you dog lovers out there, this is not the dog you really want to meet.
Absolutely not. Okay, so here is a fun common superstition that most people have grown up hearing, that when you pass a cemetery, you should hold your breath. But why is that? Well, we all know if you don't hold your breath, legend states that you could breathe in a spirit, good or bad, and they may be able to take control over you and even kill you in attempts to escape the spirit world. Here's another superstition you may not have heard of. Excuse me. Graves should be dug east to west. Superstition over times has varied on which direction the head should be laid. Many say the head of the deceased should be laid towards the west. In general, it is so that the soul will not be lost at the resurrection. Now, one reason given for this is so the dead won't have to turn around when Gabriel blows the trumpet during Revelation. Still others believe that the head should face the east, as that is the direction of the star that shone at the birth of Jesus. Here's a weird one. Being the first to leave the cemetery is bad luck and could bring you death. Another similar superstition stated that the sex of the first person to leave the cemetery would be the sex of the next person to die.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Right.
Now, I tell you what, I am going to have to pay more attention to this next time I'm at a cemetery. And while we are on the topic of the cemetery, some fascinating American superstitions involve the burial of people who have been murdered. Some believe that burying the victim face down would prevent the murderer from leaving the area. Now, others believed that burying the liver separately from the body would ensure that the murderer would be caught near the place the liver was buried. Now, all I can say about that one is whoa. Also, folks, keep in mind, the next time you're at a funeral, it says, counting the cars in a funeral procession is ill-advised, as you are simply counting the days until your own death.
Oh, my.
Yeah, that is a little freaky.
I will not do that.
Never count the cars. And with that, we should take a short break, but we are having too much fun right now. I will tell you that you are listening to Ghost Talk Radio on WBHM/DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. And so I think we're just going to continue on.
I think that sounds good. So the number 3 seems to be the magic number in superstitions and folklore.
Oh, number 3 is the magic number.
Yes,
all across.
I've heard about it for a very long time.
Oh, yes.
And another familiar legend is that death itself comes in threes.
Mm-hmm.
So if one person passes within your group of family or friends, there soon shall be 2 more to follow.
And you know what? And a lot of times that seems to be the case.
It always has been within my family.
Yes.
So death knocks are when you hear 3 knocks on your door, and when you open it, you find no one to be there.
Spooky.
And it indicates death is coming for you.
Even spookier.
That's, yeah. Now these knocks, they're also known as knocks of doom, and I see why. Well, there's clocks. And legend behind clocks is that you should never give a clock as a gift because it implies you're counting down their time on Earth.
That is fascinating because I'd never heard that before.
I've never either, and I have clocks.
I have given clocks as a gift.
I would say let's not do that again. And last but not least, falling pictures are even a part of these urban legends. And it goes to say that if a picture falls off the wall for no particular reason, it is considered a death omen, and that someone within that picture itself will soon die.
That is kind of freaky because I have had pictures fall, and the people are still living. I mean, so far.
Really?
Yes. Now, here's another interesting superstition. There used to be a widespread superstition that the retina of a murdered person's eyes would, if photographed, give a picture of the last thing they saw.
That's very, very intriguing.
That, it makes me want to test out the theory. Yeah. How can we do that? Excuse me. It said that if they were murdered, their killer's face would be imprinted on their eye. Sometimes murderers would destroy the eyes of their victims for the fear that their image would be retained in them. I mean, that is so morbid, isn't it?
It is, very much.
I mean, but...
It's fascinating, though.
It is, because I'm, into serial killers, and so are you.
Yes, I am.
And, there's lots of victims. I mean, I really would like to know if this is true.
Yeah, that would be an interesting fact to find out.
Yes, so now we have to track down victims of serial killers.
See what we can find.
Right. Oh, my goodness. Now, here within the United States, the Grim Reaper, you all, is well known. It is looked at as either causing the death of the person they seek or as an entity that guides them into the afterlife. Nevertheless, if you see the Grim Reaper, it ultimately means death. The Reaper is described as being skeletal, clothed with a long black cloak and a hood, and carrying a scythe. And there are many additional Reapers in folklore around the world, different,
And I have a friend that used to work at a nursing home who actually stated that they've seen the Reaper several times right before one of their patients had passed.
Really? Now, I've never seen that, so that would be kind of freaky.
A little scary, I would say.
I mean, in ancient Greece, death was considered to be inevitable, so it was not looked upon as representing evil. Death itself was often portrayed as a bearded and winged man, but at times it could be depicted as a young boy. Now in Greece, death, they call it death, that's the same as the Grim Reaper here in the United States. Now, the name of death was Thanatos. He had sisters, but his sisters were the spirits of violent deaths, including deaths from battle, disease, and accidents, and even murder. These sisters were considered evil and often depicted feeding on the blood of the bodies after the souls had been escorted to Hades. They were also said to have fangs and talons and dressed in bloody clothing.
I would never want to have to approach them.
No. That is the Grim Reaper in Greece. Oh. Death.
Well, the Ancal is the Celtic lore for depicting death.
Uh-huh.
The Ancal is a spirit of the last person that had died within that community. It is a tall, haggard figure, usually seen wearing a white hat and having long white hair.
Okay.
Now, it's also said to be seen as a skeleton with a revolving head, being able to see everyone everywhere. It is known to drive a death wagon or a cart piled high with corpses.
Oh, that's not good.
And, legend says that if it stops at a home, it means death for those that are inside.
That would be a creepy wagon trail right there, right?
It would be.
I tell you what, also in Ireland, there is a female spirit known as the Banshee. And I know that a lot of you have heard of the Banshee. And she causes death of a person, usually by shrieking. Now, the Banshee is often described as wearing red or green, usually with long, disheveled hair, and she can appear in a variety of forms. Perhaps most often she is seen as an ugly, frightful hag, but she can also appear as young and beautiful if she chooses. When several banshees appear at once, it indicates the death of someone great or holy, like very prominent. One interesting fact about the banshee, they are not confined. They can travel and follow an unfortunate family abroad and foretell their death.
No, that's horrible.
Yes, so they can just track you all over.
You never can get away from it.
Right.
Well, in Scottish folklore, there was believed to be a black, dark green, or even white dog known as a Siu Sith that took dying souls to the afterlife. Poland, however, depicts death as being similar to our own Grim Reaper in appearance, but instead of a black robe, death wore a white robe.
Oh, that's a different twist on it, isn't it?
Twist.
Now, death is portrayed as the goddess of death in Scandinavia. During the times of the Black Plague, death was depicted as an old woman who wore a black hood. She would venture into town carrying either a rake or a broom. Now, if she brought the rake, some people would survive. But if she brought the broom, everyone would die. So I guess you would want her not to bring the broom.
That's right. Well, the angel of the dark and the light is how Jewish traditions refer to death.
Okay.
There have also been references to Abaddon, who is considered the angel of the abyss. Lastly, in Islam, Israel is the angel of death. He is said to pull the souls from the bodies and helps guide them through the afterlife. His appearance varies. If you have done good in life, he will be seen as a beautiful being. But if you have done bad in life, he will show himself as a horrific monster.
So this all depends on you.
That's right. Better make some good choices.
How you lived your life. Yes. Okay. I'll tell you what. There are other creatures and mythology surrounding death. Now, the Lady in White is the spirit of a woman who died tragically or suffered a severe trauma during her lifetime. And everyone's heard about a Lady in White. I mean, that folklore and legend, that's all across the United States. It's in all the countries, actually. It's said that usually the Lady in White died violently for the sake of her true love or for the loss of her children. Sometimes she's even the one that killed them.
Wow.
Yes. This causes her to go mad with grief and commit suicide, leaving an angry spirit behind. In many cases, she is thought to be an omen of death or disaster. For those who see her, tragedy may strike soon after. The lady only wears white, and she wears a nightgown or it's a wedding dress, is what they see her in.
Well, the Wild Hunt is a group of spectres that is said to be seen racing across the night sky, gathering the souls of the departed.
Oh.
The huntsmen themselves are said to be bearing the wounds that had originally killed them. They are accompanied by spectral dogs, fierce horses, and raging winds. In lore, it states that one who sets eyes on them and their procession will soon suffer a great misfortune or death.
Well, I guess that's not something we want to see either then.
Yeah, I don't want to see
There's a lot of things we don't want to lay eyes on, isn't there?
Fun to read, but I think I'll pass on viewing it.
Well, and speaking of that, we have the Death Coach, and that originates in Ireland. It's a large, black horse-drawn hearse, and it's pulled by 6 black stallions. In some tellings of the story, these stallions have no head. The driver of the death coach is known as Dullahan. The Dullahan, a normal man in every other way except he is lacking one very defining characteristic, and that's his head. Most often, this headless apparition carries his decapitated head, or he leaves it lying beside him on the seat. Now, like the Banshee of Irish folklore, the death coach is seen as a death omen. If the phantom coach is seen or heard on one's property, it will continue to harass the family until the inevitable death of one of the members happen. One variant of the story is that if you open the front door of the home to the death coach, a basin of blood will be thrown on you, thrown in your face.
Unpleasant?
Yeah, very unpleasant. The legend of the death coach has migrated into all areas of the British Isles and in various parts of the United States. Numerous stories can be found from New York, West Virginia, and of course on the Royal Mile of Edinburgh, which is in England. And it's supposed to make regular stops to collect the souls of the dead. In some stories, it is also said it is summoned by the wails of the banshee.
Oh.
Now that's an interesting twist. We're combining them both now.
They work together on this.
Yes, it says the death coach will rumble through the streets of the village until it comes to a stop. Wherever it stops, it is considered a death omen. The coach must return with at least one soul aboard. It is believed that if the coach is approaching a village, the gated roads should be open to allow the death coach to pass through and continue on to somewhere else. Now, many people were afraid to witness this coach due to imminent death upon themselves or their loved ones if they should see this.
I can't say that I don't blame them on that.
Right.
I don't think I would want to come upon that myself.
Or the wailing of the banshees first. That would all be so.
I would attempt to run and hide, even though it probably wouldn't work.
Yes, I think so too.
Well, there's also the angel of death, which is believed to show up before someone passes to help guide them over to the other side. Okay. Or even bring about their actual passing.
And that we've heard about them before.
Yes, we have. Now, this angel has also been referred to as the destroying angel. And one of the most noted angels of death is Israel. He is known to be the recorder of death, taking note of every person who passes and is born. Now, his physical description is no less than absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Now, he's said to have 70,000 feet, 400,000 wings, and has eyes and tongues for each person residing on Earth.
I mean, just to try to picture that.
Huge.
It's huge, and not only that, almost like out of this world, right?
Exactly.
That it just sounds so unbelievable. Because how could something, look? Just imagine what that must look like. So far, we have talked about some of the legends and lore involving omens of death. Now let's take a look into symbols that signify death and some other superstitions revolving around death itself.
Okay, well, now there are symbols of death that are obvious and have been used within many cultures, including the use of the human skull or the skull and crossbones. I think we're all quite familiar with that.
Absolutely.
Now, the skull is one of man's oldest and most powerful symbols used. It has long and varied history of use with multiple overlapping interpretations.
Yes.
Now, most commonly, it is seen as a representation of death and morality. The Nazi SS incorporated the skull into the uniforms of the concentration camp guards in a symbol that probably still invokes fear today.
I would think so.
I would too. And likewise, the skull and crossbones symbol was placed on bottles of poison as a visual reminder of danger. And of course, it was once flown as the flag of pirates and was probably as unwelcome a sight as any on the high seas.
Probably. Somebody's up to no good when you see that on the ship. Yes.
Well, skulls were powerful symbols in both the Spanish and Mexican Aztec cultures in the Middle Ages. And in Spain, the skulls were used to mark the entrances to graveyards.
Now, that seems like kind of practical to me. Because that's appropriate to me, to the graveyard. Don't you think kind of appropriate?
I think so.
I mean, I don't know if I want my skull sitting there at the entrance.
No, that's true.
But it seems fitting to me. The coffin, speaking of graveyards and all, the coffin symbolizes death also. It's the container of sins, and it is the last respect for the dead. Other symbols, not quite as common, that are used are clocks, hourglasses, and sundials. These are used as a depiction of the passing of time or of time running out. Even candles can represent death, making both marking both the passage of time. Eventually, the candle will burn out, meaning soon your life will be over.
I find all of that.
I burn a lot of candles to the quick,
And I never have heard of this until recently.
So next time we burn it to the end, our time is almost out.
I will make sure that I do not completely burn the candle.
Right, not to the end.
That's right. So animals, there are other symbols of death.
Mm-hmm.
Some we've already touched base on previously. And the most common animals of death are crows, cats, owls, vultures, and bats.
Right.
And I find this very ironic because there's even a flower associated with death, and that's the lily, and that just so happens to be my favorite flower.
That is the death flower, and we all grow them.
Well, the lily itself, it symbolizes the innocence that has been restored to the soul of the departed.
Okay.
And lastly, there are two colors most associated with death. Black, and black symbolizes mourning and is also associated with the underworld and evil. And white, which also associated with death and symbolizes mourning. Now, black is more common within the West, while white is more common within the East.
I see. So your Asian cultures probably would be wearing white.
Right.
I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are many superstitions about death, some seemingly very far-fetched, while others not so much. We will cover a few of the more common superstitions followed by people that believe if they do not obey them, they themselves or their loved ones that have passed will suffer great consequences. Some of the superstitions are purely just that, of course, superstitions. They are just guidelines as to what one can expect if certain actions happen or if something is not followed, some directionings. There is a rule of 3 within legends and a lot of superstitions, and we talk about that, a lot of things. 3 knocks, 3 beeps, 3 seems to be the magic number, It is believed that death hunts 3 at a time, so if you received news of a loved one that's died, you soon may hear of 2 more deaths in your family to follow, or friends, or whatever. And it is believed that children that are born during a comet will have a difficult early life and will be susceptible to having an early death.
Now, I'd be interested to see if there's some facts behind that one.
Like if we could look up some data, comets and children, deaths of children. Time. Yeah, that would be interesting.
It would.
And if one hears thunder during a funeral service, it is a sign that the departed soul is being accepted into heaven.
Well, that would be a nice sign to receive.
It would, and you wouldn't think like you would think that's spooky, eerie, but it's supposedly, it's a great sign. Yes.
Well, speaking of funerals, as we said, black is very popular.
Uh-huh.
It says that black must be worn, but nothing new, especially the shoes.
Wow.
So wearing new shoes is said to bring about great misfortune. And pallbearers should always wear gloves to prevent the spirit of the deceased from entering their bodies through direct contact with them.
Interesting, because they're in the casket.
That's right. And I've never heard of that as well.
No, me neither. I've not heard of that one.
And it is also believed by some, to ward death off, you are to toss salt over your left shoulder. Tossing it over your left shoulder blinds the devil that is setting on it.
Now, I have heard about tossing salt, but not as far as the death part of it. Like, toss your salt for luck or something.
Yeah, usually it's always for luck.
Yeah. Now, some believe that clocks are to be stopped upon the death of a person in a home to show the departed that his time is over for him or her. If the head of a household dies, it is particularly important to stop the clocks or all the other inhabitants of the home will die as well.
That's not good at all.
No. So when Grandma dies, hurry up and stop the clock so you're all doomed.
The entire house and pull all the batteries out.
Absolutely. And there's other people that believe that once a clock in the home with the dead person ran down, it would never work again. So if the clock runs down, that's it for it. Then there is the mirrors. It has been believed in some cultures as soon as death occurs, the mirrors and pictures in the room should be covered or turned to where they can't look upon, to where you can't see them. It is bad luck to let the reflection of the corpse be seen in the mirror. Some people believe it is bad luck to see your own reflection in the mirror until the corpse is taken from the home. Others believe that if a mirror is not covered, they will never be able to be fully cleaned again. Now, a variation on this states that the reflection of the corpse may never leave the mirror or the pictures. So if you get the corpse in the mirror, well, it will be there for forever, I guess. A European tradition says that if you look into the mirror before the body is removed, you can see the deceased looking over your shoulder.
That would creep me out.
It would creep me out, but I want to see if it's real.
Yeah, can I test it out and see if it's real?
Yes. There is another superstition about mirrors that if 3 people, notice the magic number 3 again. If 3 people look into a mirror at the same time, one of them will die within a year. What do you think about that?
I think that I'm not going to try that superstition out. Well, here's one about coins.
Money. We get money left around all the time.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's believed that coins should be placed on a deceased person's eyes. Now, this practice dates back to ancient Greek, who believed that the dead would have to travel down to Hades and need to cross the river Styx in order to arrive in the afterlife.
Huh.
Now, to cross over, however, they would need to pay the boat driver, so coins were placed on their eyes so they'd be able to pay the fare. Now, another reason coins were used was because they were practical items to weigh down the eyelids and keep them from opening. To further explain this, if the eyes of a corpse remained open, he was said to be looking for a follower, and another death would happen soon.
Oh, that's freaky. But I do know about, I used to take care of preparing dead bodies, and we used the coins.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
And with that, everyone, we should be taking a break. You are listening to Ghost Talk Radio on WBHM-DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. But I think we're just going to continue on. What do you think?
I think we should.
I think we should too, because we can take a break when we're done.
That's right.
It is believed that one must bury the deceased facing east. It is said most cemeteries are laid out with the headstones on the west and the feet pointing to the east. This comes from the belief that the dead should be able to see the new world rising in the east, as with the sun. I will have to check this one out the next time I go to a cemetery to actually see which way.
I'm curious.
Yeah, because I'm wondering how they're laid out now.
Yeah, for sure.
I've never really paid attention to that. Now, going further, graves should never be left open overnight. It will lead to another death. It is ideal to dig and close the grave all in one day of burial. Now, on top of that, if a grave is left open over Sunday, another death will occur before the next Sunday. And talking about flowers on the grave, if wild flowers appeared naturally on the grave, it was a sign that the deceased had been a good person and gone to heaven. if the grave is barren and dusty, it was a sign that the person was bad or evil and indicates they went to Hades.
Might have to look into that as well.
Let's see if there's any flowers on some of them.
Any barren ones that we might have to check out.
Yeah, and then we look up the people and see what they were like.
Well, here's another one. If someone dies in their house, one must remove a corpse feet first.
Feet first?
Feet first. It is said to always remove a body from a house feet first. Now, this is a practice that dates back to Victorian times, when it was thought if the body went out head first, it would be looking back and beckoning those standing behind to follow them.
That is something. Feet first. Prior to burial, as soon as a person is, dead and in the clothes in which they're to be buried, a dish of tongue twister, a dish of salt should be put on their chest to keep evil spirits off. It is also said to help prevent swelling and putrefaction. Now, I heard about the salt for a drying effect.
Right.
But I didn't know that
to help with the swelling and the smell as well.
And for the evil,
Yeah.
I have heard, because way back in the days, they did use salt for curing and purification or whatever, preservation. That's my word. Now, here's a creepy one. Do not put the clothes of a living person on a corpse. That person will die once the clothes decay.
Oh, my.
Right? So you don't want to loan out your
no kidding.
The scrubbies for Aunt Martha.
Sorry, Aunt Martha.
No. And, that would be a little hard to validate, too. So we can validate that one so well.
Right.
Also, unlike the clothes, removing the bedclothes from the home before the corpse ensures that another member of the family will soon die.
Dang.
That is quite amazing, don't you think?
Yes, I do.
So, I would say let's, talk a little bit about what's going on here at WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Kristen.
Well, as many of you know, WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also known as Paranormal Experience Radio, is a fairly new station out of Alabama, owned and operated by the amazing Kat Hopkins, who is a very experienced paranormal investigator and has had her own popular talk show for many years called Paranormal Experience.
Plus, she is a great friend of ours.
Yes, she is. And she has some great shows lined up for the new station, so you'll want to check them out on www.wbhm/db.com. And keep checking the website as new shows and information are being added all the time.
And I will tell you, Kat is doing a fantastic job at transitioning from having her own show to not only having her own show now, but an entire broadcasting station.
Yes.
And that is phenomenal.
It is phenomenal.
She's doing a great job. And I want to talk a little bit about what's going on here at the jail and for our group 187PI for this month of June, what we got going on. June 8th and 9th, which is today and tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
And we will be joining with that shortly this evening. We have a guided ghost hunt both nights here at the jail, organized and put on by Ghost Hunt Weekends. They're one of the most recognized paranormal event companies here in the U.S. If you want to come and experience some of the activity that goes on here at the jail, go to www.ghosthuntweekends.com, and click on the Old Paulding County Jail and reserve your spot. Now, tickets are gone for tonight, but I think there might still be a couple tickets left for tomorrow. So if anyone listening wants to join in on the ghost hunt, you can get your ticket yet for tomorrow. There are options to sleep over at Ohio's most haunted jail as well. Now, Saturday, June 9th, myself and members of my team will be going to the Spook TV Con being held at the Randolph County Asylum with the Booth brothers and Rachel Marie Booth. All donations go to help preserve the Randolph County Asylum. So come on out there and help a great cause and meet the Booth brothers. That will be a fun-filled day in Winchester, Indiana. Then we head back to the ghost hunt here at the Old Paulding County Jail in the evening. So tomorrow's going to be a very busy day for us.
Fun-filled but busy.
Absolutely. If anyone wants to attend a private ghost hunt here at the Old Paulding County Jail, just gather up your team and some friends and your ghost hunting gear and book a private session where you get to investigate the jail in private all to yourself. To book a session, go to 187pi.com and just click on Investigate the Jail. All the private investigations on the schedule, what's available, are listed on the website. You book them directly through us, and the available dates, every once in a while we'll open up a couple of more dates. We'll post them up there, so just keep checking back. And proceeds from all the private investigations go towards continuing the restorations here at the jail.
And and if they're curious of kind of what goes on, there is some things posted on YouTube and some of our pages.
Absolutely.
To kind of get an idea to see some of the events that take place here.
Absolutely. And they can follow some of the other pages too. Ghost Hunt Weekends posts pictures and updates, and there are actually a lot of people that come too. There's a lot of stuff online.
There is.
For the month of June, we also have Jailbreak Co. 9, and that's our super fun escape games running in the cell blocks of Ohio's most haunted jail here in Paulding, Ohio. And the theme for the month of June is the Big Top Circus. Kristen, can you give everybody a short rundown of the circus theme? It is so fun.
Well, I sure can.
Uh-huh.
So, P.J. Cunningham's Big Top Circus could not compete with Oliver Sweeney's World's Greatest Circus, as his acts were lacking, and soon P.J. was faced with the reality that his Big Top Circus was nearing bankruptcy.
Oh my goodness.
So P.J. hatched a plan to regain his spot as the top attraction to see by adding a secret axe performance using Jake, his knife thrower, who had no